its 50th anniversary that the Beatles released Sgt Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. A series of celebrations were held in Liverpool to remember and enjoy the music of Sgt Pepper at 50. It gathered various Beatles nods for each event.
Yeah, I kind of grew up with the Beatles, really, I suppose, but listening to it in the house and all that kind of stuff, and obviously around Liverpool, and you just kind of get Beatles fever.
Which songs is your favorite in this album?
Oh, in Sgt Pepper's, I like a day in the life. I think that's probably my favourite song. I think it's The Benefit of Mr Kite. I like that one a lot. And Good Morning, obviously. You know.
As part of the festival, Mr. Kite's Music Circus gathered thousands of residents, performers, and musicians to share their love of Beatles. Sgt Pepper is regarded as the most cultural impact album, which was released when the world has already begun to change the previous in 1960s. A conversation was held about the importance of the period of the 60s for the Beatles.
That Sgt Pepper is actually the end of something rather than the beginning of something, at least for this country, because in this country culture changed in the mid-1960s. From there on in, what we see is the beginning of rock music, and rock music is really what changes young people. Rock music comes with a lot of different values that people practice for many decades after that, even maybe to the present day. So maybe not the album on its own, but I think what the Beatles encouraged people to do.
The World Cup win, a distant memory now, 1967. The first satellite went up into space.
I wish I could show you a picture of what I used to look like. I used to have very long hair and round glasses like John Lennon. I mean, I became a songwriter. I had hit records in the 1980s because I wanted to be like the Beatles.
I know they had such a big impact. I think it wasn't just music, it was the whole of the culture, you know, like that they brought in. Everyone wanted to look like them.
I think Sgt Pepper completely changed the way we listen to music. Because it contains sounds that weren't popularly associated with a rock album. I think it sort of broke the mold, you know. It kind of showed people that you can do different things, you can experiment musically in that way, and it kind of set, because it's so ambitious, I think it encouraged other bands to be ambitious, and it set a high bar. It said to people, this is how good an album can sound, and I think that's why it's still remembered to this day.
They tell the history of how Beatles music moved from the simple beginning all the way through till today. It inspired changes in prevailing political, social, and religious attitudes, born from the ideology of peace, love, and true respect for one another.
I think it's because somehow the music never seems to date. It never seems to get any older. And I think ultimately because the Beatles have very strong melodies and very good harmonies. And its melody and harmony are timeless. So the Beatles' music is timeless because their melodies and their harmonies are so strong.
I think people still love the album because it is the most definitive album of the 1960s. When you talk about the Summer of Love, and when you talk about Swinging London and all these great moments in the 1960s, it is the soundtrack of those times. You know, when I and I'm sure I'm the same as a lot of people, you know, that I feel nostalgic for the 1960s, even though I wasn't alive in the 1960s. I feel nostalgic for a time I didn't live through, and that to me is because of the music of those times.
Once the album released, it comes towards the top of the list of the greatest albums ever made, and took home the Album of the Year Grammy and the prestige of the top spot on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time list.
For me, it's the definitive pop album of the 20th century, and everything is measured against it. So I think in 50 years, 100 years, we'll still be talking about Sgt Pepper. Well, I won't, because I won't be here, but I think people will still listen to it and still look on it as a piece of art.
For 4 weeks ago in Liverpool, fans commemorate the great band with their own innovative performances. It is a festival for everybody from all ages to enjoy and share the love of the Beatles. After its 50 years release, the album is still providing inspiration for a new generation of artists.